Some moments divide your life into before and after. For me, that moment happened on a rainy Thursday evening in October when I opened the wrong door at the wrong time and saw something I was never supposed to see. But here's the thing about wrong moments. Sometimes they're the most right thing that ever happens to you. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how a single mistake led me to the love I'd been searching for my entire life. The rain hammered against the windows of the architecture firm where I'd been working late, the rhythmic percussion almost hypnotic as I stared at my computer screen. My eyes burned from hours of reviewing building plans, and my coffee had gone cold an hour ago. It was nearly 9 p.m., and the office was mostly empty except for the distant hum of the air conditioning and the occasional creak of the old building settling. I stretched my arms above my head, feeling my shoulders crack after being hunched over my desk for too long. At 28, I was supposedly in my prime, but the long hours and endless deadlines were beginning to wear on me. My reflection in the darkened window showed someone who looked older than his years, dark circles under green eyes, brown hair that needed a trim, and a 5 o'clock shadow that had turned into a 10 o'clock stubble. Time to call it, I muttered to myself, saving my work and shutting down my computer. As I gathered my things, I remembered I'd left my portfolio in the supply room earlier that afternoon. The building was old, a converted warehouse in the arts district that our firm had renovated 5 years ago. The hallways were a maze of exposed brick, industrial piping, and reclaimed wood, beautiful in daylight, slightly eerie when nearly deserted. I made my way down the corridor, my footsteps echoing on the polished concrete floors. The supply room was at the end of the hall, next to the conference room and the senior partner's offices. Or at least I thought it was. In my exhausted state, I miscounted the doors. The handle turned easily under my grip unlocked, which seemed right, and I pushed the door open, already forming an apology in my mind for disturbing anyone who might still be working. But the words died in my throat. The room was dimly lit by a single desk lamp, casting long shadows across what was definitely not the supply room. It was an office, a beautifully appointed one with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, architectural models on display, and a massive oak desk. And standing in front of an easel near the window, completely absorbed in his work, was Alex Rivera. But that wasn't what made me freeze in the doorway, my hand still on the handle, my heart suddenly pounding in my chest. Alex was crying. Not the quiet, dignified tears you might shed at a moving film, but the kind of raw, desperate sobbing that comes from somewhere deep and broken inside. His shoulders shook with the force of it, one hand gripping the edge of the easel while the other covered his face. He hadn't heard me come in over the sound of the rain and his own grief. Alex Rivera was a legend in our firm. At 35, he was the youngest senior partner in the company's history, a design genius whose buildings had won international awards. He was also devastatingly handsome, the kind of handsome that made you forget how to form coherent sentences. Tall, with dark hair that he wore slightly longer than conventional olive skin that spoke to his Argentine heritage, and dark eyes that seemed to see right through you. He was also intensely private, professional to the point of being aloof, and had never shown a crack in his composed exterior in the 3 years I'd worked at the firm. Until now, I should have left. I should have backed out quietly and pretended this never happened. But something in the raw vulnerability of the moment paralyzed me, and then I saw what he was painting. The canvas showed two men, rendered in loose, expressive brushstrokes that somehow captured more emotion than any photograph could. They were dancing, or maybe just holding each other, their faces closed together in a moment of profound intimacy. The background was abstract, all deep blues and purples that suggested night, or perhaps the depths of emotion itself. And in the corner of the canvas, barely visible, were the words, "Para mi amor perdido," my lost love. I must have made some sound, a sharp intake of breath, perhaps, because Alex suddenly turned, his hand dropping from his face. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. His eyes were red-rimmed and swollen, his usually perfect appearance completely undone. Tears still streamed down his cheeks, and I could see him struggling to compose himself, to rebuild the professional wall he kept between himself and the world. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, finally finding my voice. "I thought this was the supply room. I didn't mean to." "Get out." His voice was rough, hoarse from crying, but there was no anger in it. Just exhaustion and something that sounded like defeat. "Please, Daniel, just go." The fact that he knew my name surprised me. I was junior staff, barely a blip on the radar of someone like Alex Rivera, but there was something in his tone, something beyond embarrassment or anger that made me hesitate. Are you okay? The question was inadequate, even stupid given what I'd just witnessed, but I couldn't seem to help myself. He let out a sound that might have been a laugh if it hadn't been so broken. Do I look okay to you? No, I said honestly, stepping fully into the room and closing the door behind me. You look like someone who needs, I don't know, someone. Don't need, he started to protest, but another sob cut off his words. He turned away from me, his hands gripping the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles went white. Why are you still here? This is humiliating enough without an audience. I moved closer, drawn by an instinct I didn't fully understand. Is it about him? I gestured toward the painting. Your lost love? Alex's shoulders tensed, and for a moment I thought he might throw me out physically, but instead he seemed to crumble, sliding down to sit on the floor with his back against the desk, his head in his hands. Today would have been our 10-year anniversary, he said quietly, his voice barely audible over the rain. 10 years since we met, 7 years since he died. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd heard rumors, of course, office gossip about Alex's past, speculation about why such an attractive, successful man seemed to have no personal life. But hearing it like this, raw and real, was something entirely different. I lowered myself to sit on the floor across from him, maintaining a respectful distance. I'm so sorry, Marcus. Alex lifted his head, and even in his grief, even with his eyes swollen and his composure shattered, he was beautiful. His name was Marcus, and he was everything, my partner, my best friend, his voice broke again. A drunk driver. Marcus was on his way home from surprising me at work with dinner. The driver ran a red light going 70 in a 35 zone. Marcus died instantly. God, Alex, I didn't know what else to say. What do you say to something like that? You know what the worst part is? He looked at me with those dark, wounded eyes. I'm forgetting. Little things at first, the exact shade of his eyes, the way he laughed at his own terrible jokes, what his voice sounded like first thing in the morning. I have videos, photos, recordings, but it's not the same as memory. I'm losing him all over again, piece by piece. Without thinking, I moved closer, closing the distance between us. That's not losing him. That's being human. Memory fades, that's just how our brains work. But love, real love doesn't fade. It changes maybe, it evolves, but it doesn't disappear. How would you know? There was no accusation in his tone, just genuine curiosity tinged with desperation, as if he was hoping I might actually have an answer. Because I watched my mom after my dad died when I was 15, I said softly, surprised by my own honesty. She said the same thing you're saying, that she was forgetting. But she never forgot how he made her feel. She never forgot the shape of the love they shared. That's what matters, not the perfect recall of every detail, but the imprint they left on your heart. Alex stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. You understand. I understand loss, I said. Maybe not the same as yours, but yeah, I understand. We sat there in silence for a while, the rain continuing its steady percussion against the windows. I found myself studying him, not the polished, untouchable Alex Rivera everyone saw at work, but this vulnerable, grieving man who painted his pain in the quiet hours when he thought no one was watching. The painting is beautiful, I finally said. Is that you and Marcus? He nodded, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. From the night we met, there was this little bar in the West Village that had salsa nights every Thursday. I'd gone with some friends, but they'd all paired off to dance, and I was standing there alone, feeling sorry for myself. And then Marcus appeared out of nowhere, extended his hand and said, "You look like someone who needs to remember how to smile." And we danced for hours. I fell in love with him before the night was over. Tender melancholy in his voice made my chest ache. That's a beautiful memory. It is. He looked at the painting with something between longing and pain. I paint it every year on our anniversary, and every year I hope it will hurt a little less. But it doesn't. It just hurts differently. Maybe that's okay, I offered. Maybe it's not supposed to hurt less. Maybe you're just supposed to get stronger at carrying it. Alex's eyes met mine, and something passed between us in that moment. A recognition, a connection, something I couldn't quite name, but that felt significant nonetheless. You're different from what I expected, Daniel. What did you expect? I don't know. You're always so quiet at work, keeping your head down, staying out of office politics. I assumed you were just, I don't know, shy maybe, or not very interested in anything beyond your paycheck. I felt a flush creep up my neck. I've been afraid of getting too comfortable, too attached. This is my third firm in 5 years. The other two, well, let's just say they weren't great environments for someone like me. His expression sharpened. Someone like you? I took a breath, deciding to be honest. Someone who's gay, Someone who got tired of hiding it but also got tired of it being the only thing people saw when they looked at me. So I've been trying to just blend in, do my work, not make waves. That sounds exhausting. It is, I admitted, but it's safer than the alternative. Alex was quiet for a moment then. I'm gay too, obviously, he gestured to the painting, but I don't think I've said it out loud in years. Everyone assumes I'm sure, but I've never confirmed it, never denied it, just existed in this strange limbo where my personal life is so locked down that it doesn't matter. That also sounds exhausting. He laughed then, a real laugh that transformed his face. We're a pair, aren't we, both hiding in our own ways? Maybe we don't have to, I said quietly. Hide, I mean, at least not from each other. The words hung in the air between us, laden with possibility. Alex held my gaze, and I saw something kindle in his eyes, curiosity maybe, or interest, or just the simple relief of being truly seen by another person. I should go, I said, though I found I didn't want to. Let you have your evening, Daniel. He stopped me as I started to stand. Thank you for not running away, for this. He gestured vaguely at the space between us. It helped, more than you know. Anytime, I said, and meant it. I mean it, Alex. If you ever need someone to talk to or just sit with, I'm around. He smiled, a small, fragile thing, but genuine. I might take you up on that. As I left his office, pulling the door closed behind me, my heart was racing. I'd gone in looking for a portfolio and found something infinitely more complex and precious. I'd seen Alex Rivera, really seen him, and somehow, impossibly, I felt like he'd seen me too. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that accidental intrusion into his private grief, was the beginning of everything. The rain continued to fall as I made my way home, but inside, something had shifted. A door had opened that couldn't easily be closed again, and I wasn't sure I wanted it to be. After accidentally discovering Alex Rivera crying in his office over lost love, Daniel found himself connected to the enigmatic senior partner in a way neither of them expected. What started as an embarrassing intrusion became an intimate moment of shared vulnerability. But in the cold light of day, would that connection survive? Or would they retreat back into their separate corners, pretending nothing had happened? I walked into his room at the wrong time. The next morning, I arrived at work 15 minutes early, my stomach twisted in knots. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying the scene in Alex's office over and over. Had I overstepped, said too much, made him uncomfortable? By the harsh light of morning, my decision to stay and talk seemed presumptuous, even arrogant. Who was I to insert myself into his private grief? I made my coffee and settled at my desk, trying to focus on the residential project I'd been assigned, but my eyes kept drifting to the corridor that led to the senior partner's offices. Would Alex acknowledge what happened? Would he pretend it never occurred? Or worse, would he report me for invading his privacy? Daniel Chen, right? A voice startled me from my spiraling thoughts. I looked up to find Alex standing beside my desk, looking every inch the polished professional I'd always known, tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, dark hair perfectly styled. If I hadn't witnessed his breakdown last night, I never would have believed it happened. His eyes were clear, no trace of tears or sleeplessness, though I thought I detected the faint remnants of concealer under them. Mr. Rivera, I said, my voice coming out slightly strangled. Yes, that's me. With me. It wasn't a question. My heart hammering, I followed him down the corridor, past curious glances from early arriving colleagues, into his office. The painting from last night was gone, I noticed, though the easel remained, now holding a blank canvas. The morning light streaming through the windows made everything look different, less intimate, more clinical. Alex closed the door and turned to face me. For a long moment, he just looked at me, his expression unreadable. Then, to my surprise, he smiled. I wanted to thank you, he said, properly. Last night I was, not at my best, but you were kind, kinder than I deserved for someone who stumbled into my private meltdown. You didn't do anything that required kindness, I replied. You were grieving, that's human. Yes, well, he moved to his desk, picking up a portfolio I recognized as mine, the one I'd been looking for last night. You left this in the supply room yesterday afternoon. I found it this morning and realized that's probably what you were looking for when you found me instead. Thank you. I took it from him, our fingers briefly brushing. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through me. I'm sorry again for intruding. Stop apologizing. His tone was gentle but firm. If anything, I should be apologizing to you. I put you in an awkward position, unloading like that on a colleague you barely know. I didn't mind, I said honestly. Really. Meant what I said. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm available. Alex studied me with those dark, intelligent eyes, and I felt like he was reading something in my face that I hadn't known was written there. Are you free for lunch today? The question caught me so off guard I almost dropped my portfolio. Lunch, yes, the meal between breakfast and dinner. There's a cafe around the corner that makes an excellent Cuban sandwich. I thought perhaps we could talk away from here. Yes. Yes, I'm free. I couldn't quite believe this was happening. Noon then, I'll meet you in the lobby. He moved toward his computer, a clear dismissal, but then paused. And Daniel, thank you again. The morning crawled by with excruciating slowness. I tried to work, tried to focus on the floor plans spread across my desk, but my mind kept drifting. What did Alex want to talk about? Was this professional, personal? Something in between. By the time noon arrived, I'd changed my shirt twice and checked my reflection in the bathroom mirror an embarrassing number of times. I found Alex waiting in the lobby exactly as promised, having traded his suit jacket for a more casual blazer that made him look younger, more approachable. Ready? He asked. The cafe was a small, family-owned place tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. The walls were painted a warm terracotta, and the smell of roasted pork and garlic bread made my stomach growl despite my nerves. Alex greeted the owner by name in rapid Spanish and led me to a corner booth away from the lunch rush. You come here often, I observed. 3 times a week, usually. Rosa makes the best media notch in the city, and she reminds me of my abuela. He smiled softly. She doesn't know what I do for work, doesn't care about architecture or awards. To her, I'm just a Alejandro who likes extra pickles and always tips 25%. I found myself smiling at the glimpse of the man behind the professional facade. That sounds nice. Having a place where you can just be yourself is. He paused as Rosa herself came to take our orders, fussing over Alex in rapid Spanish before turning a warm smile on me. After she left, Alex leaned forward, his expression turning more serious. I wanted to explain about last night, about Marcus. You don't owe me an explanation. Not, but I want to give you one. He took a breath. When Marcus died, I threw myself into work. Completely. Architecture became my grief, my therapy, my entire existence. I built walls, literally and figuratively, and I haven't let anyone past them since. Until last night. I asked softly. Why let me in? I don't know, he admitted. Maybe because you didn't treat me like I was broken. You didn't try to fix me or offer platitudes. You just sat with me in it. No one's done that before. Food arrived, giving me a moment to process his words. The Cuban sandwich was as good as promised, the pork tender and flavorful, but I barely tasted it. Can I ask you something? I ventured after a few bites. The painting, do you paint other things or just that? Other things sometimes, mostly buildings, architectural studies, but every October 15th I paint Marcus. It's become a ritual, a way of keeping him alive, I suppose. He set down his sandwich, his expression thoughtful. Last night was different, though. Usually I do it alone, let myself feel everything, then pack it away for another year. But having you there, it didn't feel invasive. It felt like maybe I didn't have to carry it alone. Vulnerability in his admission made my chest tight. You don't have to carry it alone, I mean. That an offer, Daniel. His eyes met mine, and there was something in his gaze that made my breath catch, interest, curiosity, maybe even attraction. It is, I said, surprising myself with my boldness. Whatever you need, friend, colleague, someone to sit with in the quiet, I'm offering. Alex was quiet for a long moment, studying me with an intensity that made me feel simultaneously exposed and seen. I should probably tell you that I find you attractive, just so we're being honest with each other. Nearly choked on my sandwich. You what? A smile played at the corners of his mouth, the first genuine one I'd seen from him. I'm not blind, Daniel. You're handsome, you're kind, and you have this quiet strength that I find incredibly appealing. I've noticed you around the office for months, but I've maintained my professional distance because, well, that's what I do. But last night changed something, and I think you feel it too. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. I do, I admitted. Feel it, I mean. But Alex, I don't want to be some rebound or, I don't know, a distraction from your grief. You're not, he said firmly. Daniel Marcus has been gone for 7 years. 7 years of me existing but not really living, and I don't think that's what he would have wanted for me. He always said I took life too seriously, that I needed to let people in more. Maybe last night was his way of telling me it's time. That's a beautiful thought, I said softly, but I also want to be honest with you about where I am. Alex's expression grew more serious. I'm not over Marcus. I don't know if I ever will be completely. He was my first love, my first everything. And if we were to explore this, whatever this is between us, you need to know that I come with baggage, a lot of it. I reached across the table, covering his hand with mine. We all have baggage, Alex. I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for real. His hand turned under mine, our fingers intertwining. What if I'm not ready? What if I hurt you? What if you don't? Countered, what if we take this one day at a time and see where it goes? No pressure, no expectations. Just two people who felt a connection and want to see if it's something worth exploring. Alex's thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, the touch sending warmth through me. When did you get so wise? Probably around the same time. I walked through the wrong door and found exactly what I didn't know I was looking for. He laughed then, a real, unguarded laugh that lit up his entire face. We should probably talk about work, the professional implications. What about them? I asked, though my practical mind was already cataloging the potential issues. I'm a senior partner, your junior staff. If we pursue this, we need to be careful, not secretive necessarily, but discreet, at least until we know what this is. That works for me, I agreed. I'm not ready to deal with office gossip anyway. Then let's make a deal. Alex squeezed my hand. Explore this outside of work, slowly, carefully. And if at any point either of us wants to stop, we do. No hard feelings, no awkwardness. Deal, I said, my smile so wide my cheeks hurt. We finished our lunch talking about easier things, favorite books, movies we'd seen, places we wanted to travel. I learned that Alex had been born in Buenos Aires but moved to New York when he was 10, that he spoke 3 languages, that he played piano though he hadn't touched one in years. He learned that I'd grown up in Oregon, that I'd almost become a landscape architect before switching to buildings, that I had a secret love for terrible reality TV shows. As we walked back to the office, maintaining a professional distance but sharing secret smiles, I felt something unfurl in my chest that I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The rest of the week passed in a strange, wonderful blur. At work, Alex and I maintained our professional relationship, though I caught him watching me sometimes from across the conference room, his expression soft. We'd exchange texts throughout the day, nothing inappropriate, just small observations, inside jokes, the beginning threads of connection being woven between us. On Wednesday evening, he invited me to his apartment. Just dinner, he clarified over text. I promise I'm not trying to seduce you, at least not yet. But I cook when I'm stressed, and I may have made enough pasta for 6 people. Apartment was in a converted loft in Tribeca, all exposed brick and high ceilings, with huge windows that overlooked the city. It was masculine but warm, filled with books and architectural models, and I noticed paintings. Dozens of them, stacked against walls, hung on every available surface. Most were architectural studies, but some were more personal, city scenes, portraits, abstracts that spoke to emotion rather than form. Really talented, I said, studying a painting of the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, the sky rendered in purples and oranges that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. It's just a hobby, Alex said from the kitchen, stirring something that smelled incredible. A way to process things I can't put into words. I turned to watch him cook, struck by how different he seemed here in his own space. He'd changed into jeans and a soft grey t-shirt, his feet bare, his hair slightly mussed from running his hands through it. He looked younger, less burdened, more like someone who might smile easily and often. Come taste this, he said, holding up a wooden spoon. Tell me if it needs more salt. I crossed to him, letting him guide the spoon to my lips. The sauce was rich and complex, tomatoes and garlic and something else I couldn't quite place. It's perfect, I said, acutely aware of how close we were standing, how I could smell his cologne mixed with cooking spices. You have sauce on your lip, he murmured, and before I could reach for a napkin, he brushed his thumb across my lower lip, his touch gentle and deliberate. Time seemed to slow. His eyes were locked on mine, dark and intense, a question in them. I answered by leaning in, closing the distance between us, pressing my lips to his in a kiss that started soft and tentative but quickly deepened. Alex's arms came around me, pulling me closer as the kiss intensified. He tasted like wine and possibility, and I felt 7 years of loneliness and longing pouring out of him into this moment. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. I'm terrified, he whispered. Terrified of messing this up. Of not being ready, of losing someone again. Then we'll be terrified together, I said, cupping his face in my hands. But Alex, you can't live your whole life afraid of loss. Sometimes you have to take the risk. I know. He kissed me again, softer this time, sweeter. I know. We ate dinner on his couch, plates balanced on our knees, talking until the city lights came on outside his windows. He told me more about Marcus, not dwelling on the loss, but celebrating the life, sharing memories that made him laugh as much as they made him sad. And I shared my own stories of first loves and heartbreaks, of learning to navigate the world as a gay man in spaces that weren't always welcoming. Do you know what I love about you already? Alex said, as the night grew late, and we'd somehow ended up tangled together on the couch, my head on his chest. His fingers running through my hair. What's that? You don't try to fix me. You just accept me as I am, broken pieces, baggage and all. You're not broken, I said firmly, tilting my head to look up at him. You're healing, there's a difference. He kissed my forehead and I felt his smile against my skin. Stay tonight, just to sleep. I'm not ready for more than that yet, but I don't want this evening to end. I'd like that, I said. We fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other on the couch, and for the first time in 7 years, Alex told me later, he didn't dream about losing Marcus. He dreamed about finding something new. The thing about falling in love is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. It creeps up on you in quiet moments, in shared laughter over burnt toast, in the way someone's eyes light up when they see you, in the gradual realization that your life has become fundamentally better with this person in it. 3 months after I walked into Alex's office at the wrong time, I was completely, utterly, terrifyingly in love with him. We'd been taking things slowly, just as we'd agreed. Dinners at his place or mine, walks through the city on weekends, late-night phone calls when we were both working from home. At the office, we maintained our professional distance, though it was getting harder. I'd catch his eye across the conference room and see everything he wasn't saying, and I'd have to fight the urge to cross the space between us and kiss him right there in front of our colleagues and the blueprints and the architectural models. Distracted, Jessica, one of my fellow junior architects, said one Friday afternoon, waving her hand in front of my face. Earth to Daniel, what's got you so spaced out? Nothing, I lied, pulling my attention back to the retail project we were supposed to be reviewing. Just tired, she gave me a knowing look. This wouldn't have anything to do with a certain senior partner who's been watching you like you hung the moon, would it? My heart stopped. What are you talking about? Oh, please. Jessica rolled her eyes. I have eyes, Daniel, we all do. The way Rivera looks at you, the way you light up whenever he walks into a room, it's not exactly subtle, though to be fair, it's kind of sweet. He's been so closed off since I started here. It's nice to see him actually smile occasionally. You're just friends, I said weakly, my face burning. Sure you are. Look, I don't care what you guys do in your private time, that's your business. I'm just saying maybe be a little more careful if you're trying to keep it under wraps. Some people around here love to gossip. I thanked her for the warning, but the conversation left me unsettled. That evening, when Alex and I met at his place for our usual Friday dinner, I brought it up. We need to talk about work, I said, watching him chop vegetables for the stir-fry we were making together, his hand stilled on the knife. That sounds ominous. Jessica called us out today. She said we're not being as subtle as we think. Alex set down the knife, turning to face me fully. Are you worried? I don't know, maybe. I just don't want us to become office drama, and I definitely don't want anyone accusing you of favoritism or me of sleeping my way up the ladder. That what you're doing, he asked, a slight edge to his voice. Using me to advance your career? Of course not. I was horrified he'd even suggest it. Alex, you know that's not what this is. His expression softened. I know, I'm sorry, that was unfair. But Daniel, we can't control what other people think or say. We can only control what we do and how we handle things. What do we do? He moved closer, taking my hands in his. We could make it official, not hide anymore. Yes, we'll face some gossip, maybe some judgment, but at least we won't be sneaking around like we're doing something wrong. You sure you're ready for that? For people to know about us? I'm tired of hiding, Alex said firmly. I spent 7 years hiding from life itself. I don't want to hide the fact that I'm falling in love with you. The words hit me like a physical force. You're falling in love with me? Is that really a surprise? He smiled, cupping my face in his hands. Daniel, you walked into my life at my absolute lowest point, and instead of running away, you stayed. You've been patient with my grief, gentle with my wounds, and you've made me want to live again instead of just existing. Of course, I'm falling in love with you. I think I started that very first night. I love you too, I said, the words tumbling out before I could second-guess them. I have for weeks. I've just been scared to say it. Scared because loving someone means you can lose them, I admitted. And I know you know that better than anyone. But Alex, you're worth the risk. This us is worth the risk. He kissed me then, deep and thorough, conveying everything words couldn't. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. Monday, he said. We'll talk to HR on Monday, make it official. No more hiding. Together, he confirmed. That weekend felt like a turning point. We spent Saturday exploring the city like tourists, holding hands openly for the first time, stealing kisses in Central Park, laughing at street performers in Washington Square. It felt like freedom, like shedding a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. Sunday evening, Alex invited me to do something he hadn't done in years, visit Marcus's grave. I want you to meet him, he explained as we drove to the cemetery in Queens. Or at least, I want to tell him about you. It feels important somehow. Cemetery was quiet in the fading light, rows of headstones casting long shadows across well-maintained grass. Marcus's grave was simple but beautiful, a black granite stone with his name, dates, and a line of poetry. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. Alex knelt beside the grave, placing the flowers he'd brought. Sunflowers, he'd told me, had been Marcus's favorite. I hung back, giving him space, but he reached for my hand, pulling me down beside him. Hey, my Amma, Alex said softly, his fingers tracing Marcus's name on the stone. I know it's been a while since I visited. Work's been busy, but that's not really an excuse, is it? The truth is I've been scared that moving forward means leaving you behind. He paused, taking a shaky breath. But I met someone. His name is Daniel, and he's incredible, Marcus. He's kind and patient, and he makes me laugh in a way I haven't laughed in years. And I think you'd like him. I think you'd be glad that I finally let someone in. Tears were streaming down my face, and I squeezed Alex's hand tightly. I'll always love you, Alex continued. You were my first everything, and that doesn't just disappear, but I think I'm ready to love again, not as a replacement, you could never be replaced, but as a new chapter. And I hope, wherever you are, that you're okay with that you want me to be happy. We sat there in silence for a long time, the sun setting behind us, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Finally, Alex stood, helping me to my feet. Thank you, he said as we walked back to the car, for being here, for understanding how important this was. Always, I promised. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Alex and I met in the parking garage before heading into the building, steeling ourselves for what we were about to do. Last chance to back out, he said, though there was no real question in his tone. A chance, I replied. We are doing this. Meeting with HR was surprisingly straightforward. We disclosed our relationship, signed the appropriate forms acknowledging the company's policies on workplace relationships, and agreed to maintain professional boundaries in the office. The HR director, a woman named Patricia who'd been with the firm for 20 years, smiled warmly at us. What it's worth, she said. I think it's wonderful. Rivera, you've been here for over a decade, and this is the happiest I've ever seen you look. Just keep it professional at work, and there won't be any issues. The hard part came next, telling our colleagues. Alex called a staff meeting that afternoon, and I could feel the curiosity radiating from everyone as they filed into the conference room. Thank you all for coming, Alex began, standing at the head of the table with me beside him. Daniel and I wanted to address something before office gossip did it for us. We are in a relationship. It's new, it's serious, and yes, we've followed all the appropriate protocols with HR. We wanted to be transparent with all of you rather than having it be a source of speculation or drama. Room was silent for a beat, and then Sarah from accounting started clapping. Others joined in, and soon the entire room was applauding. Jessica caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up and an exaggerated wink. Okay, but can we talk about how you two are literally the cutest couple ever? Someone called out from the back. Let's maybe keep the commentary professional, Alex said, but he was smiling, his hand finding mine under the table. The rest of the day was a blur of well wishes and congratulations, though I noticed a few people keeping their distance, whether out of disapproval or just awkwardness, I couldn't tell. But overall, the response was positive, supportive, and far better than I dared to hope. That evening, Alex took me to the salsa bar where he'd met Marcus, the one from his painting. I want to make new memories here, he explained as we entered the dimly lit space, the sound of Latin music pulsing through the air. Good ones with you. I should warn you, I said nervously, I'm a terrible dancer. Then I'll teach you. He pulled me onto the dance floor, his hands settling on my waist as he guided me through the basic steps. Feel the rhythm, don't think so much, just move with me. I stumbled at first, stepping on his feet more times than I could count, but he just laughed and pulled me closer. Gradually, I found the rhythm, my body learning to follow his lead. Around us, other couples swayed and spun, but I barely noticed them. All I could focus on was Alex, the warmth of his hands, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the room, the pure joy on his face as we moved together. He said, spinning me clumsily, "You're a natural." "I'm really not," I laughed, "but this is perfect anyway." "It is, isn't it?" He pulled me close, our foreheads touching as we swayed to the music. "Daniel, I need you to know something. What we have, it's not me replacing Marcus or trying to recreate what I lost. It's something entirely new, something that's ours. I know, I said, and I'm not intimidated by your past or your love for him. That love shaped you into the person you are, the person I fell in love with. I'm grateful for it. How did I get so lucky? He murmured against my ear. We both got lucky, I corrected. Walking into that room at the wrong time turned out to be the most right thing I've ever done. We danced for hours that night, until my feet ached and my face hurt from smiling. When we finally left, Alex's arm around my shoulders, the city lights twinkling around us, I felt complete in a way I never had before. The next few months were a blur of happiness. Work was good, great, even. Alex and I collaborated on a sustainable housing project that won us a major contract, proving to any skeptics that our relationship didn't compromise our professionalism. If anything, we worked better together, challenging each other, inspiring each other to think bigger and more creatively. On weekends, we explored New York like we'd never seen it before. Alex taught me to salsa, to cook Argentine dishes from his grandmother's recipes, to see the city's architecture with an artist's eye. I introduced him to terrible reality TV, to hiking trails upstate, to the simple pleasure of lazy Sunday mornings spent in bed with coffee and newspapers. We met each other's friends. I introduced him to my college roommates, who immediately loved him and pulled me aside to tell me I'd better not screw this up. He introduced me to his small circle of close friends, including Carlos, Marcus's brother, who gripped my hand tightly and said, "Marcus would have liked you. Thank you for making Alejandro smile again." We talked about the future, carefully, tentatively, but with increasing certainty, where we might live if we moved in together. Whether we'd want to start our own firm someday, the possibility of marriage, of building a life that was truly shared, but the moment that meant the most came on October 15th, 1 year after I'd stumbled into Alex's office. He invited me to his apartment that evening, and when I arrived, I found him standing in front of his easel, paint-stained and beautiful in the golden light of sunset streaming through his windows. "I painted something," he said, "for our anniversary." On the canvas was a new painting, not Marcus this time, though his influence was there in the brushstrokes, in the style. Instead, it showed two men dancing in that same salsa bar, lost in each other, the world a blur of color and light around them. At the bottom, in Alex's careful hand, were the words, "Para mi nuevo amor," my new love. "It's us," I said, my voice catching. "It is." He set down his paintbrush, crossing to me. "Daniel, this year has been. I don't have words for what it's been. You didn't erase my pain or make me forget Marcus. You taught me that I could carry that love and still make room for new love. You taught me that moving forward isn't betrayal, it's survival, it's living." "Alex, let me finish." He took my hands, his expression serious. "I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable, at taking leaps. You know that, but you make me want to try, you make me brave." He took a breath, and then, to my shock, he dropped to one knee. "Oh my God," I breathed. "Daniel Chen, I walked into my office a year ago at the absolute lowest point of my life, and you walked in at exactly the wrong or right moment and changed everything. Will you marry me?" I was crying, laughing, my heart so full I thought it might burst. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." He slipped a simple platinum band onto my finger, elegant, understated, perfect. Then he stood, pulling me into a kiss that tasted like salt and joy and forever. "Love you," he said when we finally broke apart. "I love you so much it terrifies me, but I'm done being afraid." "Love you too," I said, "and I'm going to keep walking into rooms at the wrong time for the rest of our lives, as long as it's with you." He laughed, the sound free and unguarded, and pulled me close. "Deal." The architectural firm of Rivera and Chen opened its doors on a sunny morning in May, in a small but beautiful space in Brooklyn that we'd renovated ourselves. Our specialty was sustainable community housing, projects that combined Alex's design genius with my practical approach to making beautiful architecture accessible and affordable. Above my desk hung Alex's painting of Marcus and his partner dancing, a reminder of the love that had shaped him. Above Alex's desk hung the painting of us, a celebration of the love we'd built together. They didn't contradict each other, they complemented each other, past and present existing in harmony. On our first anniversary as a married couple, we visited Marcus's grave together, something that had become a tradition. Alex placed sunflowers on the stone, as always, and then added something new, a photo of our wedding tucked carefully into the flowers. "Thank you," Alex said softly to the stone, "for teaching me how to love, for understanding, for being okay with this." Do you really think he is? I asked. Okay with it, I mean. Alex smiled, taking my hand. I think he'd be happy that I'm happy, that I didn't let fear win, and I think he'd like knowing that his love didn't end with his death. It grew, changed, made room for you. That's beautiful, I said. You're beautiful, he replied, pulling me close, and I'm the luckiest man alive. As we walked back to the car, I thought about that rainy Thursday night 2 years ago when I'd opened the wrong door and found my entire future waiting on the other side. I thought about the courage it took to stay, to offer comfort to a stranger, to be vulnerable enough to admit I felt something too. Sometimes the wrong moment is exactly the right one. Sometimes walking into a room you're not supposed to be in leads you exactly where you need to be. And sometimes the love you find in the midst of grief and healing and taking a chance is the most powerful kind of all. Alex and I built a life on that foundation, not on forgetting the past, but on honoring it while creating something new. And every day, when I wake up next to him, when I see his smile, when I watch him create beautiful things in the world, I'm grateful for that accidental moment that changed everything. Because it wasn't really an accident at all. It was fate, disguised as a wrong turn, leading me exactly where I always needed to be, home. Thank you for joining Daniel and Alex on their journey from accidental encounter to forever love. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late for a second chance at love, and that sometimes the wrong moments lead us to exactly the right place. Remember, you are loved, you are valued, and your story matters. Happy Pride always, Rainbow 2.